morning. It's Kong Yu with you in the studios of TraxxFM in Angkasa Puri, Kuala Lumpur for the interview of the day right here on Trax Momentum. If you're just joining us, well, good morning to you. Welcome to the show. Just in time for us to catch up a little bit on what's happening within ASEAN, and particularly when it comes to the ASEAN Supreme Audit institutions. Yeah, here to tell us more about what's happening with ASEAN SAI or ASEAN SAI as they call it. I have with me Tuan Haji Khalid Khan Abdullah Khan, who is the Deputy Auditor General of Performance from our National Audit Department, joining us this morning. Tuan Haji, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Kong Yu. Yeah, thank you for giving us some aid time this morning on TraxxFM.
No problem. Thank you for coming in to brief us about a very important institution and one that governs, of course, a bit of, in general, I can say it's check and balance to how things are done in Malaysia. So it's a function that we definitely appreciate as Malaysians. Right? And then come audit season, of course, there's usually a lot of buzz, a lot of information being shared, and rightfully so, some concerns, also, of course, by Malaysians generally, about how money is being spent and all that. But today, we are going to zoom in on the 5th ASEAN SAI Summit, as well as get to know ASEAN SAI. Right? Did I say it correctly, Tuaji?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, tell us about ASEAN SAI and when was it established?
Okay, a bit on ASEAN SAI. I think it stands for ASEAN Supreme Audit Institution, and it is an organization, sub-regional organization within ASEAN, comprising of 10 countries. And it was established in November 2011 in Bali, Indonesia. And the idea of the formation of ASEAN SAI mooted from the Auditor General of Malaysia during that time, and we managed to convince 2 other countries at the time to come together, and then it crystallized into ASEAN SAI as it is today.
Okay, comprising of how many? Is everybody in ASEAN on board essentially?
Yeah, the 10 countries. That is Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, Singapore, Thailand, and also Vietnam. All those, and Malaysia, of course. Yeah. Right.
Okay, so it was, an idea that was mooted by Malaysia.
Right.
Okay, and it is very interesting, because talk about cooperation with the ASEAN countries from many, many different perspectives, and we've got different committees, different in a way, committees are looking at different aspects of how that spirit of ASEAN cooperation can be improved. And generally, as a region, that's what we need to do, isn't it? Stand together. But within the audit side of things, that's very interesting. So let's zoom in on that. What is the focus and functions of ASEAN SAI?
Okay. So the establishment of ASEAN SAI is based on the similarity that exists among ASEAN member countries in terms of culture, needs, and also challenges, as well as values of togetherness, and mutual respect and solidarity. And capitalizing on this, the positive values that exist among ASEAN countries, therefore the ASEAN SAI was formed, and it is, as you know, in each of these ASEAN countries there exists the Supreme Audit Institution with their own mandate and jurisdiction in terms of public sector auditing. So therefore we feel that with the merger of these 10 countries, we can do it together with a common cause, that is to establish good governance and also accountability, public accountability, right?
Okay, it's very, to me, definitely welcome and very interesting. How we actually extend it amongst the spirit of cooperation as well, not just with like together prospering, for example, or making sure that we address certain social issues, and also with the advancement of technology, and how we can actually, in the spirit of cooperation, work together to push those agendas forward, but also in a very important thing about public auditing, right? So that's a great thing about this. Let's talk a bit about the structure, okay, and also the functions. Maybe before that, let's go into that. Some of the focus as well as the functions of ASEAN SAI.
Yeah, but before that, Kong Yu, I think I want to stress here the cooperation among ASEAN, where you see the focus is mainly on area like capacity development.
Right.
That is of prime importance within ASEAN because we have different level of advancement in public sector auditing among the member countries. Therefore, with this in place, capacity development is being emphasized where we share among countries in terms of knowledge, expertise, and area that we have. Some countries have experienced different form of auditing that need to be shared among ASEAN countries.
Okay.
And another important aspect is on the technical development, right? So we have research conducted among countries, parallel research of interest. Take, for example, now we are talking about sustainable development goal,
Right.
the Agenda 2030, where these are new to all these countries, but we need to be doing it together and trying to establish or formulate methodologies, audit methodologies which fits into countries, and then we can learn from each other through that kind of cooperation. Another aspect that we have been emphasizing is the collaboration SAI among international organizations, because on common audit issues of global nature. So I think this is where we are trying to expose our auditors to, to the world practices in terms of auditing, and also I think that will build up their competency in public sector auditing, right? And your question on the structure,
Yes.
governance structure, the ASEAN structure consists of the assembly and executive committee and secretariat and the committees. At the assembly or the summit, this is the highest level of what you call in the structure, where policy making, decision, and so on the strategic planning of ASEAN SAI are being formulated and endorsed for implementation. Whereas for the executive committee, it comprises of the chairman and the vice chairman, right? So the arrangement within ASEAN countries on the rotation of chairmanship is quite unique. It's not like any other organization where you have election and things like that.
Right.
But we have a rotation system among countries in alphabetical order of the country's name, right?
I see.
So but of course, the first chairman was a bit different because in honor, giving the honor to Indonesia as the host country for the first meeting in Bali, they were appointed as the chairman to ASEAN SAI. And after that, it's all about, following the alphabetical order of chairmanship. And which now, I think, during the 5th summit, where Malaysia will be taking over the chairmanship from Laos. Okay.
L to M.
Sorry?
From alphabet L to M.
All right. That's
Yes.
right. Okay. And at the ASEAN SAI Secretariat, we have a permanent secretariat in Jakarta, Indonesia, right? And it is being headed by the Badan Pemeriksa Keuangan Republik Indonesia. So overall, I think the administration function of and supervision is under the chairman of ASEAN SAI, right? So the last part of that structure is the committee. We have 4 committees.
Okay.
These are committees responsible to implement whatever plan that have been approved by the assembly or summit, right? And topmost, we have the strategic plan committee. This is headed by the SAI of Vietnam. And then we have the rule and procedure committee headed by Singapore. Then we have knowledge sharing committee headed by Malaysia. And the 4th one is the training committee headed by the Philippines.
Okay.
So these are the structure, and that is how we operate in terms of implementation of what you call ASEAN SAI strategic plan.
Right. Now, we all know the audit process is important, right? No matter how small or how large the overall picture. In this case, we're talking about audit for our country, Malaysia, as well as in relation to how we can improve best practices, etc., with the other ASEAN countries, isn't it?
Yeah.
But in more details, Tuan Haji, explain to us, how is ASEAN SAI related to ASEAN, and how can it contribute to the ASEAN Community Vision 2025?
Okay. So ASEAN SAI, was recognized by ASEAN under the ASEAN Charter, and as an entity, I mean other entities, other stakeholders, So under this category, they are supposed to comply to the guideline of accreditation of civil society organization under the ASEAN Charter. And with this come the responsibility and obligation of ASEAN SAI to contribute towards the goal of ASEAN. I think that is how it is related to ASEAN. Yeah? And also under the ASEAN Community Vision to 2025 is a roadmap that articulates the ASEAN goal and challenges and charts for the ASEAN community building based on political cohesiveness and also economically integrated and socially responsible. These are the three pillars under the what you call ASEAN Political Security Committee and also ASEAN Economic Committee. And the last part is ASEAN Socio-Cultural Committee. I mean, these are the three pillars under this committee. And under the ASEAN goals, committee goals, there are several things that need to be, I think I need to emphasize here. That is giving emphasis to people and also the well-being of people, and strengthening capacity to deal with existing and emerging challenges and issues, and an outward looking and global player, as well as to strengthen ASEAN organ and ASEAN secretariat. These are things under the ASEAN goal, which I think in the planning of ASEAN SAI activity, they tie up to this main goal of ASEAN under the three pillars. And because, as you know, ASEAN SAI means we are from the auditing fraternity, and our concern will be building up, enhancing good governance, and strengthening public accountability. That is our main goal in doing the audit. And in this process, because public sector auditing is a bit unique if you compare to the private sector or the financial audit, because we have an element where we are doing more than what the private are doing. You see? We have this idea of performance audit, where the measure is on performance of program, project, and activities. And I think this is actually a check and balance, for government programs, where we can see whether there exists abuse of power and all sort of those abuses. And I think these have captured the interest of our stakeholders. It's not only about auditing, but you will have to present your report to the stakeholders, where they are keen to know how far the government of the day have achieved, in terms of implementing policy that have been formulated through Parliament.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Yep.
Right.
So there are many roles, responsibilities. There are also a role of ASEAN SAI complementing the ASEAN blueprints. Right, there's a few, right?
Yeah.
I understand there are three. Tell us more.
So the ASEAN blueprints, as I mentioned, it is on the ASEAN Political Security Committee, ASEAN Economic Committee, and ASEAN Socio-Cultural Committee. And the collaboration by ASEAN SAI members in its various activities fits well with the ASEAN cooperative spirit of togetherness, despite the diversity among ASEAN countries.
Exactly.
And this put ASEAN SAI into a common platform. That is the common voice of ASEAN Supreme Audit Institution. I think that is in line with these three pillars. That is also on ASEAN ideals. That is on one voice, one community. That is how I think we fit really well with ASEAN overall, goal and aspiration. Okay.
Yeah, and this is something that is actually beneficial for all of the ASEAN member countries, right?
Yeah, right.
Even though I think the task of putting together and pulling together, common best practices, etc., and all that, is quite a challenge, I would imagine, because of the diverse nature of our socio-political climates between the ASEAN countries. Yeah. So the benefit of ASEAN SAI I understand, not just for the audit side of things in the ASEAN members themselves, but also for other in other areas as well, isn't it?
Right. Right.
Right. So we are going to take a quick break. On return from this break, more with my special guest today, Tuan Haji Khalid Khan Abdullah Khan, who is the Deputy Auditor General of Performance from our National Audit Department, right here on our first interview of Momentum. Stay tuned. Keep it right on Trax.
Malaysia and enjoy the sounds of nature and its serenity.
TraxxFM 89.9 Jerantot Pahang.
Welcome back to Trax Momentum. Kong Yu with you, the interview of the day brought, an hour earlier to this morning, A quick little shout out to Corazon as well as Koala Bear on Facebook Live now, If you'd like to join us for our discussion today and also find out more, and if you have a question for our guest today, feel free to type in in the comments section as well. Yeah. Once again, welcoming back into the studios of TraxxFM, my guest for today, who is from the National Audit Department, in fact, the Deputy Auditor General from the performance side of things, right? Tuan Haji Khalid Khan Abdullah Khan joins me in discussion in also some details about ASEAN SAI, as well as the background history and how we will be, of course, taking over the chairmanship of the ASEAN SAI, which is the ASEAN Supreme Audit Institutions, very, very soon, or is it already in the works in terms of the chairmanship?
Yeah, the handing over will happen on the 6th of November.
Oh, okay. Next week.
Yeah, next week. That's right.
Cool.
And this event will be officiated by the Deputy Prime Minister, Dato Sri Dr. Aziza Wan Ismail.
Nice. So that's an exciting time, isn't it, for your side especially?
Yeah. Because involve not only delegates from the ASEAN countries, we have also invited some international organization, like the Intosai Development Initiative, which is based in Austria, and also some other the World Bank representative, and also from the Secretary General of the Intosai and also ASOSAI. They will be also participating in this summit.
Okay, so we'll talk more about the summit and some more details you can share with us as
Right.
well. Exciting time for Malaysia indeed, eh?
Yeah.
But let's, have your opinion on the extent, right, Tuan Haji, that ASEAN SAI has achieved its objective since its establishment in November 2011. So it's
Right.
been about 9 years, coming up to 9 years, 9 years now, right? Tell us.
Yeah, ASEAN SAI, after 8 years of in existence, I think have achieved a lot. Yeah, in terms of their capacity building programs, technical cooperation and collaboration. I think these have been recognized. It's not something that we are saying this from within, but we have seen feedback from other regional organizations where they have been seeking or inviting ASEAN SAI to participate in their conferences, to present papers, and also giving assistance. They come forward and say that they would like to assist ASEAN SAI in achieving their goals. So I think this is an indication that shows that ASEAN SAI is really on the right footing to achieve the strategic plan which have been put in place. And to elaborate in detail on each one of what I've mentioned just now, Kong Yu. I think first, on knowledge sharing workshop seminars, we have conducted on financial accountability index, non-revenue water audit, the use of computer-assisted audit tools, and ISAI, which is the International Standards of Supreme Audit Institution implementation, and ASEAN SAI monitoring and evaluating system. And also we have also organized symposiums on good governance and also on enhancing the public accountability in ASEAN, and also to achieve regional competitiveness and prosperity. Now, on training, I think training on risk-based approach to financial audit. This is our area that we're giving attention to. And also on quality assurance in financial audit, and also to train trainers, because we expect each of these ASEAN countries, they are able to to have an in-house training on their own after undergoing this training conducted by ASEAN at the ASEAN SAI level, and also course design course for the implementation of ISAI, International Standards of Supreme Audit Institution. And another interesting area I think is on the research, where Malaysia is taking the lead, and the first research conducted by ASEAN SAI on public procurement. You see, this area of public procurement is of concern to all countries, and we have headed this team of public procurement research, and out of this research we have produced a guideline on audit of public procurement. And I'm proud to mention here that during the summit itself, which is on the 6th, in the afternoon, during the dinner, we'll be launching the new edition, the new version of this guideline. Right?
Okay.
Okay. And the last part is also we have the newsletters for ASEAN. We started in 2013. So those are among the areas that we have been concentrating on. I think also in technical cooperation, we have also parallel audit, and also on study visit from countries, and this can also be conducted in bilateral agreement or arrangement among countries. They might want to focus on specific area, and they will choose among the ASEAN countries through the networking that we have established to have this cooperation or parallel audit being conducted. So those are the things, Kong Yu, that we have achieved so far.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also you were saying there are a lot of collaborations with other international organizations as well.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's pretty exciting, yeah?
Right.
And the Secretariat, I understand, has also contributed to significant achievements, right, of ASEAN SAI to strengthen the institutional capacity of all the SAIs. And that's the whole idea of enhancing the spirit of togetherness and unity, isn't it?
Exactly.
Amongst ASEAN members, in this particular case, considered ASEAN SAI members.
Right.
Let's now zoom in, Tuan Haji, to the fifth summit. Right. That's excitingly happening next week. Where, when, and I understand it's on the 6th of November. What is the agenda? And also, there are 2 side meetings also.
All right.
Right, they're going to be held in conjunction. Give us some of these details, Tuan Haji.
All right. Thank you, Kong Yu. For the 5th ASEAN SAI Summit, it will be held from the 4th, actually. Because the side meeting and those other bilateral and technical meeting are held on the 4th and the 5th.
Okay.
Whereas for the official summit where we have the guests, as I mentioned earlier, the Deputy Prime Minister will be present. It will be on the 6th. So during this 3 days summit, we will be first having we have been having this technical bilateral meeting with Indonesia. That is the Badan Pemeriksa Keuangan Republic Indonesia. Now I think it's the 18th meeting. Where we have collaborated in research on sustainable development goal between the 2 countries, doing a comparative study. And then also on certain area of interest in terms of auditing, the border security. We have audit of the PPP project, PFI project, public-private partnership, and also on other areas that we have included for this arrangement during the bilateral talk. And the next meeting that we are going to have is with our donors. Donors, that means they will be financially supporting ASEAN SAI in to implement their activities. They are offering us this financial support and also some technical support. This will be discussed during on the 5th with our donors country. Then the main event on the 6th. It will start. We will have the summit on the 6th, where we will be tabling all of our strategic plan, and reports from the various committees, the 4 committees that we have had, and also charting our new plan for the coming the next 2 years. And this will be endorsed by the summit, right? So those are the activities that we are going to have during this summit. And also, of course, normally people say auditors are dull people, behind the scene all the time. But we have also inserted in the program some, social programs, excursion for the delegates, to expose them to Kuala Lumpur, part of, Visit Malaysia year agenda.
That is a must, Tuan Haji. No matter what and how serious nature meetings are, we should always expose all our guests to what we have in Malaysia, from culture to food, of course, and to other aspects. So the summit will be held on the 6th. That's the actual day. Prior to that, was a couple of days of pre-meetings at the Royal Chulan Hotel in Kuala Lumpur, officiated by our Deputy PM, Dato Sri Dr. Wan Aziza Wan Ismail, consisting of more than 100 delegates. And also, one key aspect will be the handing over of the chairmanship for the State Audit Organization of Laos to our Jabatan Audit Negara, our National Audit Department, for the next few years. That's going to be 2 years,
2 years, yeah.
That's going to be an exciting time. Tuan Haji, tell us, as the incoming ASEAN Side Chairman, what is Malaysia's vision and hope?
Okay, Kong Yu, on this aspect, I think Malaysia have have wide experience in the running of this sort of body, because previously we were the chairman to the ASOSI, ASEAN Supreme Audit Institution of ASEAN, ASOSI. Now we are chairman to ASEAN SAI. I think that is a continuity of what we have done earlier, and we look forward to to head this ASEAN SAI, and we believe we could contribute. And I'm proud also to tell you here that we have been the lead supreme audit institution in a lot of aspects as far as the ASEAN SAI and ASOSI. We have been taking the lead in terms of working group for specific audit and also research. And I think this will be an interesting time, because we have a new Auditor General, Dato Nick Azman. I think he will lead this ASEAN side to greater height. I believe so. Then, and also we need a cooperation of ASEAN side members, because we have if you can see from our setup, we are very distinct from each other. We have a lot of differences.
That's right.
But despite that, I think we have to harmonize this so that we can work effectively and achieve the main goal of ASEAN side, that is to, as I say, promote good governance and also public accountability.
Right. Exactly. And I think it's a great experience as well. I mean, for obviously the National Audit Department, to be within the context of ASEAN and to be working on these issues, because I always find that we always have a good placement within the ASEAN region. That's one. And second of all, I think we are, in terms of economic advancement and everything, we're also ahead of the pack. But generally also we have one or two countries that we can look for in terms of best practices and to learn from, and also not such great practices to also derive experience and hopefully learn lessons from.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so all the best when it comes to taking over the chairmanship. Right?
Thank you, Kong Yu.
Tuan Haji, to your side, the National Audit Department, as well as from all of us at TraxxFM, and in fact for all Malaysians, right? All the best in keeping up governance for our country.
Thanks.
Right, and of course sharing with us all those key details that all Malaysians will be concerned about come the audit season, shall we say?
Exactly.
Okay, before we let you go, Tuan Haji, anything else you'd like to share with us for today?
Yeah, I think now the prominence of the role played by Supreme Audit Institution is, taking center stage, especially now when we go for performance audit. It become the key to, the product of the audit office.
That's right.
And I think this have attracted interest among stakeholders. And at the same time, for us as auditor, I think that is the very reason we need to upgrade, ourselves in terms of competency and professionalism. I think this opportunity with the summit held in Malaysia, I think this will be, make use as an effort for us to go through those endeavor. Right. Thank you very much, Kong Yu, for the time and. On behalf of the Jabatan Audit Negara. Okay,
you're welcome. And thank you so much for coming in. Huge thanks to my guests this morning, Tuan Haji Khalid Khan Abdullah Khan, who is the Deputy Auditor General of Performance from our National Audit Department, here to talk about audit, the National Audit Department, as well as, more importantly, the taking over the chairmanship of ASEAN SAI for the next couple of years. Yeah, so Malaysia is next with the 5th summit that's going to be held on the 6th of November next week. Wrapping up the interview for this morning, stay tuned. We've got the world news coming up at 11 and much more headed your way all day long right here on TraxxFM. For now, I'll check in with you after the world news. Good morning. Keep it right here on Trax.
I really wanna stop.